Hello, I'm Melissa Fritz, host of It Takes a Co-op podcast from CHS. Today we're examining the importance of rail transportation in the cooperative system. Rail is one of the most efficient ways to ship grain, fertilizer, energy, and other ag products. I'm joined today by Jackie Bailey, Senior Vice President of Transportation with CHS. Later in the podcast, we'll hear from Monica Freeman, Director of Rail Transportation for CHS. Jackie and Monica will describe how rail transportation supports the cooperative system supply chain and the challenges and opportunities they navigate to keep the supply chain moving efficiently. First up is Jackie Bailey. Jackie, good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you doing today?
I'm great.
Awesome.
Let's start by talking a little bit about your role at CHS. Tell me all about it.
Okay, well, let's see. I joined the organization about 2 years ago, and I joined to establish an enterprise transportation function. So we wanted to bring together all of the activities around truck, rail, barge, ocean, vessel, and across energy, ag retail, bring that together for the overall organization and really create more value for the company. And so I have been working on that for the last 2 years.
And that is not a small job, considering how many miles we travel and how many things we transport. So, as you came into that role and over the time that you've been
Mhm.
at CHS, how have you thought about transportation strategy and what's needed for CHS and the cooperative system?
Right. So looking at our organization today, we're very decentralized. Everyone works autonomously. We have many processes. And so it was looking at how do we benefit from more of a center-led organization? What are the advantages of establishing more standard processes, simplifying our work? And so the objective really is how can we create more efficiency? How can we be more effective for the company? And so we have, over the last 2 years, right, created a strategy. So we worked on a vision, so to safely deliver products across the globe to enable our product line strategies and ensure we're creating value for our customer. And so we look at creating that vision and mission and looking at what do we want to accomplish? We want to accomplish creating a career destination for transportation professionals. We want to operate effectively, right? So create operational excellence across our organization. We want to digitize our transportation, and we want to create value for the cooperative system. So we've looked at how do we aspire to do those things. We looked at what kind of services do we need to provide to the organization? So created a service catalog, created that operating model, leveraging the center-led governance, looking at how do we structure regionally to make sure we're supporting all of our regional locations, and then what needs to be done locally. So combining all of that has really created a vision, a 3 to 5 year strategy, and a lot of initiatives to get there.
I can imagine because you're talking about across all of those key bodies of transportation. And so let's talk about rail, maybe specifically. As you think about rail, like how does that fit into our strategy?
Well, rail's critical for us, right? We're very early in the supply chain, right? Moving a lot of bulk products, and rail's about 50% of our overall
Wow.
transportation spend. So it's extremely important. We're a top 10 shipper with many of our rail partners. So very important to us, and it creates a significant amount of value for the organization.
How does our ability to leverage rail transportation really drive value for owners?
Well, if you think about where we operate, rail
Mhm.
strategically serves that northern plains area from a grain origination perspective. And we also use that rail network to bring in the inputs like fertilizer and propane and diesel. So rail's really important to creating that value. And then access to markets, right? So you think about that grain origination, it needs access to export markets. And so we manage end-to-end supply chains to the PNW, to the Gulf for export, to Mexico. Through rail, we can also access feeder markets, the milling market. So it's really important to our owners and our co-ops to being able to serve them effectively.
Well, it does seem like those rail shuttle facilities, have been coming up and popping up across the country from the member cooperative side as well as CHS side. So, as you're planning and your team is planning,
Mhm.
how does that impact kind of how they put their plans together?
Our shuttle locations, right, it's all about speed and efficiency. And so as we have those locations, we're able to serve our farmers much more effectively. Harvest time is compressed, right? I mean, it continues to get smaller and smaller. And so we have to be able to ensure that our elevators aren't full, right? Because once we have no more capacity, then we would end up turning away our farmers, which is not creating value for our members. So ensuring that we have that high speed velocity in that turn is extremely important. We were looking at some of the evolution in grain origination and grain harvesting, right? In the 20s and 30s, they could pick 100 bushels in a day. In the 50s and 60s, it was like 500 to 1,000 bushels in a day. Today, it's 30 to 40,000 bushels today. So you can see how that velocity has changed.
Yep.
Well, our transportation network needs to support that velocity.
How does your team prepare for the continual advancement of technology, or think about what needs to happen in terms of to be ready to really help solve challenges and opportunities for our customers and
Absolutely.
owners?
I would say it's a couple different ways, right? One would be, just staying relevant in the industry.
Yeah.
So our participation in associations and shipper groups to understand what's available in the marketplace, how would it apply, partnering with our IT colleagues to figure out what would fit best with our overall architecture and make sure that we're leveraging those capabilities. And then the use of them. So when you think about control tower, as I mentioned previously, that allows us to be more predictive. And so if we have visibility to when a empty train is coming in, it allows us to arrange for labor to make sure we can load that train. It will allow us to ensure that we've got enough grain coming in to be able to load that. And if we don't, how we can move that from one location to the other. So it's a lot of planning, the predictiveness, the visibility, and just understanding what's coming at us.
Yeah, you think back to those farmers in 1920, and wouldn't their minds just be blown by the volume that we're moving from one place to the next? The fact that we can watch it and track it from start to finish. It's really fascinating.
Absolutely. And that efficiency that we create, right, creates more capacity, just the velocity and the movement of goods, both from loading it to an unloading it and the transit in between. So it's an advancing area, and we're very fortunate to participate in it.
Truly the definition of it takes a co-op
It does.
to really get this done. So Jackie, thank you for your time today.
You are very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Next, let's get an inside look at rail logistics. We're heading out to CHS River Terminal to meet Monica Freeman. She heads up rail transportation for CHS.
CHS has a unique position with rail access across a large geography at multiple locations. It allows us to access the grain where it's at, or to ship from our refineries or processing plants into destinations across the United States and globally through export terminals. These cars behind me have been loaded. They came from the loading facility over here to the side. Once the grain is in the bin, we take it through a loading process into the cars. Each car is loaded with the commodity that we're going to ship out to our customer. Once we have the car loaded, then we close the lid and seal it. We notify the railroad that it's ready to go. Once the rail cars leave the facility, a lot of the next part of the process is really dependent on the railroad. From there, we notify them what our destination is and what our route will be. But once we hand the cars off, then they're fully in the control of the railroad until they arrive to the destination. At destination, we basically reverse the process, dumping the grain from the rail car and moving it back either into a river barge, storage, or an ocean-going vessel, or even to our customer storage, depending on where we're delivering to. Bulk commodities need rail to move efficiently. There's not a network that can support it in the same way that rail does inside the United States. Savage is unique in our network because they can both ship and receive rail, and part of that is because they're loading out to barges. So they can receive trucks and move that to barge or to rail, and they can receive rail and ship that to barge. It's just so important that our crews are available and are here essentially at any time of day when the railroad places the cars. It's really asking a lot, and they step up to the challenge over and over again for us to ship in our shuttle network.
thanks to Jackie and Monica for explaining how important rail transportation is to the cooperative system. It was great to learn a bit about how the CHS supply chain uses rail transport efficiently to keep inputs and ag products moving all around the U.S. That will do it for this episode of It Takes a Co-op. Check out our show notes for more information, and please join us again next month.